welcome to the Paid Search Podcast. My name is Chris Schaefer, and today we're going to talk about Google Ads. As always, that's what we talk about here. You're in for a solid 30 minutes or so, I think I have packed in here, of Google Ads information. You will get information about the metric of the day, metric of the week, which is talking about conversion value over cost. We're going to go into that. And then we're going to have a topical discussion about why your cost per click is too high. It's out of control. Why is your cost per click so high? What's the problem? What's causing it? How can you help it? We're going to talk about that. And for those of you that have been a part of the show for a long time, you'll notice I didn't mention a question. That's because I don't have any questions. I don't have any good questions. Now, many of you have sent in questions before, and for some various reason, I may not have answered it or didn't fit or something like that. So please, if you have a question, now is a great time to get in a question. You can go to paidsearchpodcast.com to send in your question, or you can just email me directly. Go straight to my inbox, paidsearchpodcast@gmail.com. Send in a question. Now's the time. I have no questions for the week. No questions. Help me fill up the inbox again with questions, because you guys always have such interesting questions, and it helps keep the show very fresh. And that's what I want to do. So we're about to jump into the topic of the week, the metric of the week. First metric of the week, then topic of the week. We're going to talk about conversion value over cost. But before I do that, I want to tell you about Optio.com/PSP. That is the sponsor of the show. Been the sponsor of the show for a couple of years now, and it continues to impress me about how many people tell me, "Thank you so much, Chris, for telling me about this tool. Thank you." And these are people that I look at their accounts and I'm greatly impressed by the performance of their accounts. These are not beginners. These are not average users. These are people that are managing client accounts, managing their own business account, and they are using Optio to their advantage. You say, well, Chris, what is Optio? Optio is a tool designed for Google Ads managers, freelancers, business owners who want to make sure that they get the most out of Google Ads. You log into the software and it tells you, hey, did you know your cost per click has increased 300%? Hey, did you know that your ads stopped this amount of time? You're losing a massive amount of impression share. Hey, did you know? Hey, did you know? Tons of information that you may never notice. There's a thing called account blindness that many people have, where they look at their account and they don't see it. They don't see the critical red flags that are staring them in the face. This is a software that can help you find those critical red flags and fix them. It's a tool that helps you to fix your performance, and it gets it done so fast you'll be amazed. You can try it for free for 8 weeks, 2 months for free at opteo.com/PSP. That's opteo.com/PSP. Use the chat box down at the bottom to tell them you heard about it from Chris Schaefer on the Paid Search Podcast, and you'll get that special offer that is only available through me at that URL. That's opteo.com/PSP. So here we go. Let's jump in. Metric of the week. Metric of the week is conversion value over cost. Now, I was quite shocked when I looked back over my list of all the metrics that I've talked about. I've never actually brought this metric up, and I was like, surely I've talked about this in my metric of the week discussion, and I have not, because I've kept every single one of them noted on the ones that I've talked about, so I don't talk about the same ones over and over again. I've never talked about conversion value over cost. It absolutely deserves its own discussion because it is a column in Google Ads. So let's talk about the people that need to know about it the most. If you have people buy things on your site and you do not pay attention to your conversion value over cost, I am talking to you. Now, those of you that sell a service or take phone call leads, lead generation, I'm going to talk to you in a second. But first, let's talk to the people who absolutely need to know about this. Conversion value over cost is the measurement of your return on investment. If you pay Google money to show your ads, how much are you getting out of that investment? Okay? It's really simple. It's conversion value divided by the cost, the total cost of all your ad interactions. Okay? So it's a very simple formula. You take your spend and you take your conversion value, your transaction values, your purchase, your cart purchase values, and you put them together. So you take, for example, let's say it this way. If you spend $1,000 and you make 100, you take those two numbers, put them together, conversion value over cost is 0.1. 0.1. So you divide 100 over 1,000. The answer is 0.1. If you spend $1,000 and make $1,000, that is a conversion value over cost of 1.01. Okay? 1,000 divided by 1,000 is 1. If you spend $1,000 and make $2,000, your conversion value over cost is 2.0. That's 2,000 divided by 1,000. These numbers can also be converted to percentages, right? You just move the decimal over to the right twice. So if you spend 1,000 and you make 100, that gives you a percentage return on investment of 10%. And if you spend $1,000 and make $1,000, that's a percentage return of 100%. If you spend $1,000 and make $2,000, that's a percentage return of 200%. So hopefully you understand which of those three numbers that I shared with you is the best. Is it 200% or 10%? Return on investment is going to be better the bigger the number is. 200% return means you invest and you make something back, right? I put $1 in, I get $2. That's great. Now, if I put $1 in and only get $1 back, that is probably not ideal for almost everyone because there's always cost associated with those sales. If you're selling a product, shipping, and all the kind of stuff that goes into the overhead of having that product and getting it into the person's hands, that costs money and you need to compensate for that. So most of the time it's going to be above 1.0. It's going to be above 100% return. You need to make something beyond just 100% return. So you can see, if you do not pay attention to these numbers, those of you that have shopping campaigns, this is critically important that you pay attention to it, because if you are not making enough to compensate for the expenses and the time and the involvement of selling these products, and you're only making a 0.5% return, sorry, not 0.5%, but 0.5, in other words, 50% return, that is a detriment to your business. It's hurting your business. You do not look at the cost per conversion. Cost per conversion is a raw collection of how much you're selling a product for overall. If you sell 100 products, how much did it cost you to sell 100 products? For those of you that are e-commerce, shopping, product sales, purchase on website kind of companies, you need to know ROAS. Conversion value over cost is Google's version of ROAS, return on investment. Okay, so shopping people understand it. Most of you that do shopping campaigns and have an e-commerce company, that's not new to you, and hopefully you look at it and it's important. And you know how much your conversion value over cost number should be. You monitor that. You have a minimum. Some clients I work with want a minimum of a 700% return. Other clients are happy with the 2.5. Other clients are happy with a 1.8. These numbers are not universal. Some people are very happy because they rely on returning customers, a reoccurring purchase. So they're okay to have a lower return on investment because it works better over the long run. Other ones do not rely as much on that, so they have to have a higher return. Now, for those of you in the back of the room thinking this doesn't apply to me, I can ignore it. Listen, the gold standard of a lead generation campaign is a campaign that is utilizing conversion value over cost. If you understand phases of success, which is my Google Ads principle number 2, phases of success, which is episode 386. And you're currently in phase 3 and you want to be more into phase 4, you should be looking at conversion value over cost. You should be considering, can I utilize this metric? Can I make it happen? So for lead generation, you can push lead information back into Google Ads to know that a certain phone call led to a job, led to a contract, led to something beyond just the lead. So it's not just a lead you're measuring now. A lead is worth 0, but a lead that ends in a contract, an exchange of money, right? We're talking about money here. That's worth something. There's value associated with that. So it's very important for companies that want to really succeed and really know how much value they're getting from their keywords, their ads, their ad groups, their campaigns, big picture and small picture. Conversion value over cost is something you might want to think about. There's a lot of ways to accomplish it. Some people have all these different softwares that can plug in and feed information back to Google Ads based on their salesmen and the success rate of the calls and how much of a certain job is valued at and how much the actual invoice number is. I talked to plenty of companies that have that figured out. That is very relevant. Now, let's talk to those of you that are in the very back. You're just about to walk out the door. You're like, well, okay, I have a special business, Chris. You must understand. No, I can't. I cannot possibly measure. It's a 6-month time period between the time that they contact me and then whenever they finally go through the sales process. I'm special. No, I don't need to worry about that. Well, there's another version for you. The other version, if a CRM or some kind of customer acquisition management system doesn't fit for you, there's a simpler version. If you find that phone calls lead to signed contracts, purchases, jobs more often than a web form, you can simply attach a arbitrary value to a phone call. So if you have 2 different, 3 different, 4 different conversion types, phone call might be the most valuable. Then it might be a web form. Then it might be a newsletter sign up. And then it might be someone who subscribes to something on your site, downloads a white paper. You can assign values to this. A phone call might be worth 1,000. A lead form on your site might be worth 500. And then a newsletter sign up might be worth 10. And something else might be worth 10. You assign these arbitrary values. I don't care how much they're actually worth. I don't care how much a job signing actually is. These are arbitrary numbers. You just make them up. Make them up. Make them big numbers. Could be 10,000. The top one is 10,000. The next one is 1,000. Make them up. Doesn't matter. This is, as I've made famous in the past, this is the lazy man conversion value over cost for lead generation. Those were the days. For those of you that are new, there's I used to build campaigns, and I described how to build campaigns on the podcast all the time, and I referred to it as the lazy man method. It's back when it was a different world. Google Ads was a different world. Lazy man method is pretty much dead now. It's more of the smart man method now. That's what I would have to call it. Lazy man methods have been effectively killed. But the lazy man conversion value over cost build is absolutely still live and kicking. If you have different conversion types, give them conversion values. It can build in your system. It can run on the side. It will not affect your maximize conversions bidding, your manual bidding, your target CPA bidding. You can assign values to these conversions, and it will not affect them at all in the least, because conversion values have nothing to do with maximize conversions. Conversion values have nothing to do with target CPA. They do have something to do with max conversion value and target ROAS, so that is different, but it has nothing to do with manual bids. So you can assign conversion values arbitrarily and forget about it for 6 months and come back and look. You might be surprised that, yeah, this one ad group has a better conversion rate, but actually this other ad group that doesn't get as much volume has a conversion value over cost that's 3, 4, 5 times higher than everything else. That means this particular set of keywords gets a higher propensity for phone calls, which close at a higher rate. What have we learned? There's more value. There's more ROAS. There's more conversion value over cost. There's more potential here. And you've isolated something because you're using more than one metric. This is very important. Metrics of success, learning how to pair metrics. That's the foundations of Google Ads, number 7. That is critically important. So if you've always been dialed in on one thing, open your eyes a bit. Look a little further out and around, and I think you'll be very pleased to find that there's more than just cost per conversion that you can look at and measure success. So, typically, I would greet someone, I would read their question, but that's not happening right now, so I'll briefly pause and tell you again. paidsearchpodcast@gmail.com. Send me an email. Don't make me beg. I was going to say there's no dumb questions. There are dumb questions, but that's the ones I answer here. Really. You can't, I won't shame you. I won't shame you on the air. But there's no dumb questions, because if there was no such thing as if there were dumb questions, then I wouldn't have a podcast, and everybody would be too ashamed, and it'd be too below me to answer questions like this. But it's not. That I talk about very basic stuff every single day. That's what I do. So don't feel ashamed. If you don't know, you want an answer to something, send me an email. Okay. So let's move on to the topic of the week. Topic of the week, which I think is absolutely critical here. Why is your CPC, why is your cost per click so high? And yeah, I'm talking to you. You're probably thinking, has Chris been looking at my account? No, I haven't. But this is so universally true that I know that this is going to really register with a lot of people, because I have found this to be true lately because of a variety of reasons. I'm going to go through these reasons, but I find that people's cost per click lately have been accelerating, sometimes very quickly, exponentially fast, and other times it happens year after year, quarter after quarter. We get another 5, 10%, another 5, 10%, and that builds up over years. Right? Everybody wants a long-term, successful Google Ads campaign, but it can slowly eat away at the performance of your account if you continue to see increasing, creeping cost per click. So if you used to pay $2 per click and you're wondering why now you're paying $10 a click, that's what I'm going to talk about. Let's go through 3 reasons why you are experiencing such high cost per click. Number 1 is on the top of my mind right now because I just did an audit on an account, which, by the way, since we're 20 minutes into the show right now, several of you have reached out and taken me up on my free audit offer. Everyone's been really kind and very gracious. So I'll extend it again. If you didn't listen to last week's show, I do offer free video audits of accounts. No obligation. I just do it to help people understand, how I see it. And if they want to purchase a consulting session with me, that's totally optional. But you guys have been very gracious and very kind to say, hey, could you look at my account? And I say, yeah. And I look at it and you guys are very thankful for it. And some people sign up. So I'll just offer it again. If you want to reach out, chrisschaefer.com, send me an email. Well, you don't send me an email at Chris Schaefer. You go to my website, chrisschaefer.com, and fill out the form and send me an email. Okay. Anyway, back on topic. The reason this is on the top of my mind is because I just did an audit on an account, and the lady that I was looking at her account for years, it was a beautiful account, beautiful, just solid traffic. And in the past week, she had experienced a sudden drop and then spike in the CPC. And what had happened is, unbeknownst to her, she went to some of the recommendations and took some bad advice and changed her target CPA, her target cost per acquisition, her target max conversions bidding strategy, and changed it to max conversions. Okay? Now, what this did is it blew the roof off of any limitations on her account. Suddenly, her account went from an average of $6 per click to starting to get $10, $15, $20 per click. And that's just a matter of days. Why did that happen? It happened because she changed the bidding strategy. Just by unchecking the little checkbox that's right next to max conversions, just by unchecking that and taking off the target of that max conversions, maybe it's a $90 target, a $20 target, a $200 target, whatever that number is, if you uncheck that and take that off and give Google max conversion bidding setting, the regulations on the CPC go out the window. Roof blows off. We're talking Google can spend whatever it needs to, quote unquote, maximize your conversions. So you must understand this. Maximize conversions is the same bidding strategy as target CPA, but target CPA has limits. Maximize conversions doesn't. They both do the same thing, but one of them has boundaries and the other one doesn't. All right? I talk to a lot of business owners. A lot of business owners have kids, and kid A over here has boundaries. It has rules. The kid knows it can't do this. Now take away those boundaries, and what's going to happen? Absolute chaos. You can't control it. And if you've heard podcasts recently about chaos and the result of having chaos in your account, it is absolutely destructive. So you must set a boundary. If you're experiencing massive fluctuations and giant peaks in your cost per click, this absolutely can be because of your bidding strategy. You've changed it. You've changed it from target CPA to max conversions. Put it back. Put it back to target CPA. Or Change it to max clicks. If you're not, if you can't do target CPA because your account's no longer even achieving what it used to achieve, and you can't get a $200 cost per conversion goal because you haven't gotten a conversion in 3 weeks and your conversion tracking is broken, change to max clicks. Change to something that can at least prioritize your account to slow its cost per click limit. It's getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand, and it happens very quickly with max conversions. Whenever Google doesn't have a boundary in place, it does what it says it's going to do. It gets tons and tons and tons of clicks at the highest potential of getting those clicks, which means money, money, money. Lots of spend, lots of CPC. Okay. So let's talk about another reason. Reason number 2 why your cost per click is too high, and that is quite simply because you're using the wrong match type. You thought that exact match was the best match type for you. You thought that you can skip all the stress of getting the wrong kind of clicks, and you have decided to go with the exact match only. So you built a beautiful campaign. You have this ad group where you have 15 exact match keywords, maybe 5 exact match keywords, maybe 100 exact match keywords. And you did your research and you used a tool and you bought this fancy software, and if I can get these clicks, these are going to be amazing. And what did you experience? Just excruciatingly painful CPC. Your cost per click is so much more than you thought. Holy cow, why is this so expensive? Well, the reason it's more expensive is because most of the time exact match is the most expensive match type. The reason for this I'm not going to get into. It has to do with ad rank and the ability for a keyword to find other variations that might be affordable, different configurations, also called close variants. But by limiting the close variants of these keywords, which is what exact match does, it becomes more expensive, especially with the rule of supply and demand when it comes to Google Ads. If you shrink your keyword to something that's only going to show for very few impressions, and then you add max conversions as the bidding strategy, you're now compounding the potential for the cost per click to skyrocket. So now you've got a boundaryless bidding strategy with a super specific set of keywords, and what's going to happen? You're going to get very little traffic. It might be great traffic, but it's unaffordable. It's completely unprofitable because your cost per click is 2, 3, 4 times higher than it really should be for you to be profitable with what you're getting. It can really hurt your performance. It can kill a profitable campaign. A campaign that's profitable can be killed by a higher cost per click. So exact match by itself, or exact match certainly plus a bidding strategy, can absolutely kill it. And then last, number 3, I'm going to tell you about right before I remind you about optio.com/PSP. Be sure and check out my sponsor, because this sponsor helps me to get up in the morning and come up with a new idea for the podcast, because hey, sometimes I'm not exactly, flowing with the creative juices, and sometimes it's a little bit of a struggle, but I know someone's already footed the bill for you guys to hear from me, and thank them for their sponsorship of the show, because I'm not going to do it for nothing. Come on, guys, you know that nothing's for free, and they're footing the bill for you. So go try them out. Tweet them, email them, say, hey guys, thanks for supporting my favorite podcast. How about that? You're like, Chris, I don't want the software. Fine. Tweet them, email them. Say, thanks for supporting the best podcast out there. Chris is amazing, and really, you could really fluff it up. Okay, I'm done. All right, last, number 3. Why your cost per click is so high is because you may be too specific with your keywords. And this is different than exact match. So exact match is very specific. Exact match is going to bring you to a very high cost per click because you've told Google, no, I want only this tiny little bit of traffic. And they're like, okay, well, that's really specific. It's going to cost more. Now, when I say too specific for number 3, what I'm referring to is very low on the search funnel or the sales funnel or whatever you want to call it. It's long tail keyword. It's 4, 5, or 6 words long, and it's exact match, and it has max conversions. This is essentially something that could just quadruple, or whatever the next numbers are after quadruple, your cost per click. It just blows up your cost per click. I've seen this many times where business owners suffer from a thing called, I know too much about my industry. I'm talking to you, business owners. You know too much about your industry. You're too picky, and you think you know who your clients are and exactly how they search. You might know some, but you don't know all of it. And you might know a small percentage, but the rest are out here in the wings passing by you. You're not able to find them because you haven't considered the fact that your super specific exact match, max conversion bidding strategy is leaving everything else behind you. And you're not looking left or right. You're just faced forwards on these super expensive CPCs. This really specific traffic does not allow for extension beyond only what you're going after. There could be something critically important. I talk about this all the time when I talk about risk management in Google Ads. You can't just sample from one section of the sales funnel. You must have some riskier keywords that are kind of high in the funnel, control that traffic, but try it. Sample some of the higher funnel stuff. Sample some of the mid funnel stuff, some of the stuff where people are kind of just starting to look for the product or the service that you're selling. And then the people that have really specific segmentations of, I want, this one thing for this purpose, it's really specific. That's great. But you shouldn't isolate to specifically only those things. Those things represent the bottom of the funnel. And what's the bottom of the funnel? The bottom of the funnel is very, very thin, very, very small. It does not represent very much traffic. So you and 500 other competitors are fighting for that. Right? And how many competitors can you fit into the bottom of the funnel? The answer to that riddle is only the ones that can afford it. Only the ones that can afford it, because everyone else is going to be pushed out. If you can afford to force yourself into the very bottom of the funnel, you can stay there as long as you're willing to pay the super high CPC that comes with it. You sell car insurance, you're absolutely asking for destruction if you do exact match car insurance, max conversions, and then just turn it on. I mean, you're asking for it. The conversion rate on that's going to be crap. The CPC is going to be way too high. It'll never work. But what would be much better is get car insurance quote for a used truck, or Texas car insurance quote. Right? These are specific, but broad enough, high enough in the funnel that they're not too specific, and you're willing to pay for the appropriate price for what those represent. You must sample multiple areas. Don't be too specific. Don't think that you know exactly the kind of keywords that you need and try nothing else. Don't think that max conversions is the best for you simply because the name sounds really good. Oh, I want max conversions. That's what it says. I'm going to get max conversions. That's not what it means. It's the ideal. It's not what it means. So hopefully that helps you out there that are struggling with very, very high CPCs. CPCs that have artificially accelerated in the past couple months, couple years. There's a big push for people to swap over to automated bidding. If you use the wrong automated bidding, you can experience massive CPC spikes that can put your campaign under right away. Immediately can put it away. Make it unprofitable immediately. So that is it for the week. If you would like to reach out to me, chrisschaefer.com is my website. The link for everything I've mentioned, including Optio and this episode on YouTube, it's all linked in the description for wherever you are listening from. Be sure and go out there and send me a question, paidsearchpodcast@gmail.com. You can send me a question there for next week. Otherwise, I will talk to you next week.